And hello, Hopkinton. Welcome to Thursday's edition of the Hopkinton Hangout Hour. I'm Mike Terosian. I'll be with you today and with my co-host, Jim Cousins. Hey, Jim.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And Jim, who we got on today?
Today is our town clerk, Connor Degan.
Hi, guys. Great to see you. It feels like it's been forever since I've been able to see you in person, too.
That's only because it's been forever since you've been able to see us in person. And if we can't tell, we can tell by your beard and your hair.
Yeah, I desperately need a barber when they finally are allowed to open back up.
You know, some people like were me. I was just ready for a haircut when this whole thing started. Other people had been really ready for a haircut, and it looks like you were really ready.
No, actually, I had gotten one like a week before. My hair just grows like crazy.
Oh, no kidding. All right. Well,
everyone was
Connor,
saying to me in the first week,
Thank
like,
you for being
did you just get a haircut? Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I wish I had. All right. Hey, so we're going to talk about town elections, but this is our first bite at the apple here, having you on the show. So I'm interested in just chatting for a few minutes about your job and what's happening.
I'd be thrilled to. Yeah. So we have fortunately been able to move a lot of things to kind of work remotely. One of the things that kind of fell down on priority was just getting dog licenses all done. So a lot of people haven't seen their tags out because we haven't had the manpower to even get all that going. And with getting ready for elections and everything, especially with the additional work that mail-in voting can create, it's been kind of all full steam ahead on election related stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine. So I see you're in your office now.
I am. So I've actually been ever since all this started, I've been physically in the office, typically at minimum 3 days a week.
Okay.
I try to do what work I can from home, but there's a lot that I don't have access to at home. Like, the large quantity of records that I don't have digitally yet. And then my election systems that the state provides is a specific kiosk that sits on my desk and can't go anywhere else.
Oh, I see. As you can tell, I'm in the studio as well. We kicked Mike Terosian out onto the curb. You can see he's out on the street.
I know. And oh, there comes another car. Whoa.
Do you know? Has any status happened this week because of Governor Baker and what they talked about on Monday? Is town hall still closed?
Yeah. So town hall's still closed, but we've been really cranking on as a whole, trying to figure out how we're going to phase in on the town side towards that return to some form of normalcy. And so we're working really closely with the emergency management group to find a best strategy to create phases so that we can reopen everything in town, but do so in a way that's safe and doesn't put residents or employees at risk.
Like 25%?
Yes.
Knowing your office and the way it's laid out, the two desks, far enough apart, I can see that work. And you do have that interaction. You already have the glass in place. So not really much is going to change, I guess, for you, because, very rarely does the person have to actually step inside your office to get any work done, correct? I mean, a citizen?
Correct. So we're going to try to do like an intercom system right at the window so we can keep it physically closed, but people can still hear us. And so that way we'll still be able to do business at the counter when we do open up again. But if the restrictions are still in place, we'll be sure to be able to continue to keep that social distance in effect. The other pieces that we really run into as well in here, it's something I would have thought of as well, that, you've seen my desk and Lynn's is about 10 feet apart. But one of the things that I didn't even really think about, but it's a concern that was brought up, is just the fact that for me to get to the window or to to leave the room, I need to walk within 4 feet of her.
Mhm.
So then we both should be wearing a mask just for me to walk over to go refill my water bottle at the cooler, or to go to the bathroom or anything, or go to the vault. So that's something that we need to come up with how we're going to do as well. And I know that currently the state's guidelines require that office spaces shouldn't have any more than 25% of their normal capacity. So we're trying to figure out a way to work with that and still be able to provide the service that we need to, and some of the critical services that we need to, especially around elections.
So
Yeah.
would you now, with elections coming, would you now be considered, in the season, be essential, and that 25% wouldn't affect you?
So yeah, actually, the one of the things that was interesting, I pointed this out right when the first list of what careers are considered essential, and I pointed out that election officials and officers are counted as essential workers. So I looked at as that all of our duties in regards to preparing for elections, to running the election, is and should be considered essential. And so I've taken that seriously with just making sure that this stuff that I have to come into the office to do doesn't fall by the wayside just because we can do a lot of our work from home.
Sure.
Have you had any thoughts about a completely mail-in election?
So we're really pushing for people to get everything in by mail, just because it decreases their risk, it decreases risk to election workers. But unfortunately, the current requirement by the state does have a minimum number of hours the polls have to be accessible. So we've even looked at to try and decrease the physical volume. How can we decrease the amount of hours? And it's possible for us to do so. It's just we have to have there's a certain start time and there's a minimum number of hours that we have to have. So we're looking at the details on that, and the select board is responsible for deciding that when they sign off on the warrant. So I'll talk with them about it probably in their next meeting, and if they decide they want to decrease the hours, then they can, and then we'll do even more of a push to try to say, let's make sure that we get as many ballots mailed in as possible. And then if not, then we'll just have to try and be extra careful going forward and find other ways to make sure that we protect the staff as well.
Have you thought about a drive-through window?
That's been brought up by a couple clerks across the state, and it's based on the way the election laws are written with how the hall is laid out. It's extremely difficult to actually execute it. So we'd have to basically have the polls include outside and have the checkout or check-in windows there, the checkout windows there, but then we'd have to have a machine available outside because voters have to physically put their own ballot into the machine when they're there voting. If the voter votes absentee or early, then they have authorized that they allow a pair of election workers to check them in, check them out, and put it through the machine. But otherwise, there's no way that we can actually put a ballot through the machine.
All right.
Could you then, I'm sorry, Jim, but could they then maybe check a box that they allow the election worker to do it during that drive-through?
Only if the state changed their current laws.
Right. And of course, you mentioned the word a drive-in window. Well, then the town would have to change their bylaws too.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
right, so that was
because we're not a bank, so we can't have a drive-through.
Okay, there you go. See, that was actually supposed to be a funny joke, but it's pretty cool that you're thinking about all the options. And even if you have to be open a certain amount of numbers, wouldn't you not expect a huge number of people to rather do mail-in and not have to expose themselves and you?
You'd think there would, but there are a lot of people who are across the Commonwealth who are skeptical about mail-in voting, which honestly, some people the times we live in where election security is always something on people's minds. It's not unreasonable that people are concerned, but I just want to be able to also reassure them that early voting and absentee voting essentially is tried and true method. We've been doing absentee for decades, where people are able to request a ballot by mail, and they fill it out. They fill out all the paperwork on their envelope, and they get it in, and it gets counted. And so it's a process that we've done time and time again, and it essentially falls to, if you folks trust me to be able to run your election process, then I'll make sure your ballot gets counted. So
Right. And is the date confirmed now, or is it possible that it could still even be pushed back further?
So now the emergency law only allowed it to be pushed back to the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
So that would have been, the last possible day would have been June 30th, but we put it for Monday, June 29th. We cannot push it back unless we want to push back a day, which at that point there's no real purpose of pushing it back a day.
Right. Right.
So it's June 29th, that's for sure.
Okay. All right. And I hope by now is the ballot set?
So we just had the caucuses last week.
Yep.
So we have our initial ballot info that we're sending into our printer now, and we're waiting on a proof. So they'll then send us a proof. We'll make sure that they've spelled everyone's names correctly when they transferred it over and put everyone in the right positions. And if everything looks good, then we'll give them the go-ahead to do a speed order on getting those ready so that we can mail them out as fast as possible.
Okay. So has this been stressful? How are you doing?
That is a good word for it. It's but it's moments like these that you sign up for with the job too. And I'm really I knew this was going to be a long year election wise. This just threw a bit of a curveball, but one of the things that I love about the job, and is something with my personality, is I just love to find ways to adapt to changing circumstances. I find it to be an interesting challenge. So yes, there's stress, but at the same time, there's kind of an excitement to it as well.
Sure,
and
yeah.
So it leaves me still trying to figure out, okay, so like you said, I'm thinking about different contingency plans that, you think, why would that even cross your mind? Because we have to think of every possible way that we can adapt to changing circumstances, because we don't know what June 29th is going to look like. If there's anything that COVID has taught us, it's that things will change drastically from week to week.
Yep. Yeah.
You're not doing, like you said, you're just catching up on all your dog licenses and everything. And there's got to be some regular business that isn't happening. Like, I'm going to assume you're probably not getting as many marriage licenses as all these weddings are being postponed. Is there other work that you are not able to do that you can't, or that requires a catch up because you're spending most of your time adapting to all the changes with the COVID?
So you'd be surprised at the number of marriage licenses. We found workarounds for that too, so we could try to still offer that. I didn't want to be one of the towns, I know there's a lot of towns that did, but I didn't want to be one of the ones that said, yeah, you had all of your regular marriage plans canceled. Now you want to just get a civil ceremony. Oh, no, we're not going to do any licenses. So we've been finding a method to have people come and fill out paperwork in their car. Then they bring it back, sign it through the window in front of me. I take it, check it, and then after that, it's quarantined, and it needs to be put aside for 3 days anyway before they can have it issued. So it works out perfectly. But yeah, the dog licenses, a lot of things with just trying to do with the records, really. I know that just general filing, the census is a prime one that we usually are in here cranking on, because we have to use our state computer system for it. And we have the help of our fantastic senior workers who come in to work off their taxes. But it was deemed right at the beginning of this that it likely wasn't safe idea to have them in the building working when we were worried about potential health exposures. And so that's one of the things that's piled up, that's regular business that we're going to have to still finish up and typically get it done this summer, so that we can get to the next step in that.
Are you on the backside of the census? Had a lot of stuff already been done, or are you still proactively?
So for the local census, we do the whole process. Everything from getting the list compiled and mailing it out to processing it when it gets in. With the federal census, we're just really playing a support role. We're supplying the data we have and trying to assist them in figuring out where potential block boundaries are when they're going to be looking at redrawing district lines.
Oh, really? Who redraws the district lines?
So it's
Tell us about
in
that.
combination with the town and the state. So the state government and the general court will draw the district lines for themselves and for congressional representatives. But then we'll be responsible, the town, to figure out, okay, how do we get the precincts to work with that? And we'll have to submit something to the state to ensure that we have our precincts redrawn, or if we have to add a precinct, which I think would be likely with how much our population has grown since 2010. We'll likely see we'll have a 5th precinct, and people will be moved around because we've had precincts that have grown significantly and some that haven't grown much at all. Precincts 1 and 3 have grown quite a bit with Legacy Farms and Windsor by Hopkinton. We've seen a lot more people moving in. So we'll likely see those kind of carved out a little differently.
Huh. But there's no type of congressional fault line within Hopkinton, right? We're all in one.
Yep. So Hopkinton is one of the luckier towns in the Commonwealth, where we have a single district for our congressional representative, a single district for our state representative, and a single district for our state senator. Not a lot. There's a bunch of towns that have it all split up.
Wow.
Even a bunch of our neighboring towns are all split up between different representatives.
And it's interesting because I never thought of that before, because I'd never seen any type of fault line, within the town between two districts. I just kind of took it for granted. I just never realized that, wow, other towns have to deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Westboro is in, I think Westboro has 3 different state reps representing different precincts in the town. So it's interesting how that can change things, and how it changes the cost too, of just figuring out how many ballots go to one town, and making sure that then you have to make sure that certain precincts only have certain ballots and are coded differently.
Yeah.
So when we're all in the same, it's a little less so. We're able to manage on having the same ballot across all precincts, which is always really helpful.
Right. Now, can you tell us how much growth we have seen in the last 10 years?
I actually have it slightly by memory, I think. So I know, right? The things that are stuck in my head. In 2010, we were just under 15,000, according to the U.S. federal census. Like, we're talking 14,900 and something. And now we are just in the local census, which might not have the full data at this point. We are at just probably over 18,000.
Okay.
We're just shy of some of our numbers, but I'm sure there's a few people who might have even been entered in the census or have their voter registrations haven't been processed yet that are here. Yeah. So I would not be surprised if we're over 18,000 now.
So does adding, and 3,000 more people is not all voting adults. I understand that. Does that make you have a thought process or a conversation about potentially having two polling places, or do you feel confident that the middle school can still handle that?
Well, when we get to the point where we're looking at potentially having five precincts, especially if it'll depend on if we're all in the same district again as well for state rep, state senator, all that. And if we are, then uh, we might still be able to continue just doing it at the middle school. But we've also looked at options for what we will potentially be able to use. If center school stays as a town asset, then we would probably use that as an additional polling location. Maybe put two precincts over there.
Mm-hmm.
So the polling place doesn't have to be in that precinct. So let's just say Woodville was a new precinct all on its own.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be there. It could actually be downtown.
Yeah, it could. It could still be downtown as long as it has it's accessible, relative, especially if there's multiple precincts there. If it's central to all of them, and so anyone can easily get to it and find parking and get in, then you're pretty much all set. But the state has to certify the spot as well. They need to come out and review it and make sure it fits all the standards, and then they can give that to us. But
it's not just setting up a bunch of booths and your machines or whatever. There's a lot that goes into election, and I didn't realize how much went in until the first time you invited us to come to a test of a polling machine. And then after that, how you have to certify the workers, and then how, like you said, measure the space and lay it out. There's a lot that goes into just one election. I mean, even the path and the parking for this, you tape out a whole portion of the parking lot at the middle school to make that happen. It's just a lot of work. And how many hours would you say you would have to plan just for an election? Your hours, not just everybody's, but yours.
Just mine. I probably, for a single election, not including any kind of early voting, like in-person stuff, if we're excluding that, it's probably over 100 hours of just focusing on that.
Wow.
And that's also, it's a lot of work outside of my regular office hours where I'll leave the office to go and do setup and things like that over at the polls. And it could be set up on the weekends because if there's school on Friday and we have an election on Monday, then we'll go ahead and do the setup on Sunday morning typically.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
So the state legislature had to do something to allow town meetings to be pushed back maybe to September.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, I know certain things would go from town meeting and go to the election and have to pass in both places. And it seems pretty straightforward. It goes to election first, and then it goes to town meeting and has to be passed. Does flip-flopping the election and the town meeting have any other type of impact that we might not consider?
It's a good question for the lawyers. But I mean, I think at this point what we'll see is we won't see any ballot questions on this June ballot. We will likely end up having a special election following the town meeting being moved potentially to September is what we've been talking about. So we'll likely have to see a special election where we're having the discussion on if we approve any Prop 2.5 exemptions or anything like that.
Now I'm curious, why would that be? Why couldn't you just do everything? Because everything was on track to be ready for town meeting, right?
Yep.
Why couldn't we just do it at this election and then have the town meeting catch up? Is there a reason that
one of the main issues was that all of because this was all very unprecedented in how we were moving things around for this, one of the things that definitely was kind of lost in the hustle was that none of the deadlines moved. So we moved the election out all the deadlines to have everything ready for those elections didn't change. The only thing that changed was the registration deadline.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that the deadline for the select board to vote on ballot questions didn't move. So all these deadlines that we thought were going to be pushed out as well
Yep.
didn't. And so the select board was busy working on trying to prepare the town for the pandemic.
Yeah.
And they were shifting some of their attention to that, thinking, okay, that we can move this stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
And then the only option became we could have if we did a June 22nd annual town meeting, then it would have potentially called for us still having to have a special town election. So there were a few different factors that rolled into this.
Yeah.
But this will still give us the chance to then have it go to town meeting first, have it be discussed, or if it's decided that I'm sure it's one of those things, again, probably for the lawyers, but I'm sure that we could look at the option of having a special election prior to as well, depending on what works for our timing.
I
Because we're
see.
only going to get a late start in our budget. So,
Well, actually, you got the ballots to the printers now. Is this going to be a candidate only election with no?
yeah, so we're going to see candidates only on this ballot. There's
Okay.
no questions. So we will just there's 2 contested races, but everyone is running for something, which is great. We have so many people who are dedicated to this community that want to serve. And so, even if one of the contested races is the thing that interests you, go and support these people who are your friends and your neighbors. And it's great to see that we have people who are interested in doing this.
Right. What are the two contested races?
So we have the select board, which is almost always contested, which is another great testament to our town at that point. So that's going to have, it's a choose one, and there's 2 candidates running. And then the other is the school committee, where it's choose 2, and there are 3 candidates.
Okay. Wow.
Yep.
The biggest boards in town.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. I always respect those people because that is a huge commitment.
It is.
Well,
It's
either
a
one of
lot
those
time
boards
to
is a
put
lot.
in, and it's pretty thankless for the most part for both of those jobs. So
And you know what? Now that's interesting that you say that, because isn't that interesting that it often is thankless for that job? Because it's just I see a lot of rancor in national politics, but here, and where it's not even state, it's hometown politics. Everybody is doing the best they can. And
yeah, and
does
they're doing it
anybody
for
ever
free.
run
They're doing
for
it to help their town.
right? Who runs for a committee in order to be a pain in the butt?
Yeah.
It's like they want to help stuff, and you may not agree with everything, but they're doing something.
Well, and you'd be amazed at some of the just nasty emails and correspondence that come in for even just, again, the volunteer elected folks.
Yeah.
Some people can really lose track of the fact that, yeah, they're here volunteering for their community. Yeah. And if you tell them what your concerns are, that's what they're there for. They're going to listen to you.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, we are down to about less than a minute here. So I actually, you're not running for a select board or school committee, but
Thank God.
Connor, thank you so much for the job that you do for our community, because I'm sure that there are times that it's thankless as well, when people are like, why do I have to do this? And why are you making me do something?
Thank you so much. I still stand by. It's still the most rewarding job I've ever had. There are moments where there are people who don't quite see what's going into it, but there's so many people that really are grateful for the services that we can provide and what we can try our best to do to make sure that they have transparency in government and get things that they need. So I'm still just really glad to be able to do it for my community as well.
That's great. Hey, hope you're back soon.
Yes, I hope so. And I hope to see you guys soon, hopefully in person.
Yes. Oh, that would be very nice. That'll be very nice. All right. Thank you. Thanks
All right.
again.
Have a good one.
Take care. All right, we're about to transition to our second half hour, and if I see Matt Clark's smiling face pop in, which I just did, that means he's got an update for us. Go ahead, Matt.
Absolutely. Well, coming up right after this, we actually have an HCAM binge block at 3 o'clock to 8 p.m. And we're going to be showing a couple of episodes of Hopkinton Coffee Break from 2018. Tomorrow morning, we have Keep Moving with Amy and Ashley from the Senior Center. And tomorrow at 2 p.m., we're going to be chatting with Christian Navarro. And then, of course, at 8 p.m., we have the Wake Up and... No, I'm sorry. That's Friday Night Wake Up Call. That's what it's called.
There you go. Okay. Hey, thanks for that update.
No problem.
Stick around. Welcome, Bob. Welcome to join the
Thank you.
conversation.
Yep, I'm here now.
Okay. So this half hour, we're doing something interesting. This was actually suggested by one of our viewers, who is also one of our co-hosts, Mr. John Ritz, who is actually going to be here tomorrow. And he was suggesting that we kind of talk a little bit about how to Zoom, how to do some of these meetings so that you can look the best that you can. So we got one that's really easy. We're going to talk about formatting tips. We're going to talk about some technology tips and basically just setting things up. All right. Now, a little bit lower, Bob. There we go. There we go. All right. Now say something.
What do you want me to say? This is perfect. This is the way I like the picture to show up. I hope that everybody can see my smiling face.
Oh my gosh, that's
Several
so
members
funny.
of the board that may not recognize this.
All right, thank you. So that is an extreme version of what we sometimes see. We actually sometimes see that. Oftentimes, it's if not that extreme, it's a bit. It's like this, right? So you have a lot in the trade. We call that headroom, the space between your head and the top of the camera, and you really want to fill that up. As the world has been going on, close-ups have been getting closer and closer. So oftentimes, when somebody will format a shot, they'll actually be cutting off a little bit of the head, and that's come to be much more acceptable. But you do not ever want to have too much headroom. All right, that is tip number one. Who wants to, Mike, are you working on your part? Okay, who else? Matt, what do you sometimes see that you would suggest people to do?
One of the problems I sometimes see, and I know that I often have, is that people don't sit up all the way like they should. So like, especially with my chair, because my chair is a little bit old and a little bit broken. If I don't have like a pillow supporting me, this is me sitting back in the chair normally. And you don't want to do like this. This doesn't look professional. You want to sit up. You want to present yourself properly. Sit with your shoulders back so you don't have stress on your back in any incorrect way. And yeah.
That's actually really good, because now when you slouch down, you did have an excessive amount of headroom.
Yeah, that too.
Even if you did not, the slouch posture, right?
I could go like this, but this still isn't good.
Yeah.
Doesn't look good.
The slouch posture, really, dress for success. You want to not slouch for success.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I often, actually, here's one. Let me switch my microphone. I have a lavalier microphone that I have clipped on, and I understand not everybody is going to have a USB microphone that plugs in, but the equipment can make a difference, because I'm going to switch over to this microphone right here. Did anybody see?
Yep, much better.
Okay, that's better. Okay, Matt, what do you think?
There's definitely a difference.
Yep. Okay. All right. So, and also too, how close you are. Now, some people who are working on, attending a meeting going on, they'll sit way back. And the further back you go, the further you are from the microphone, and the weaker your audio is going to be. Are we noticing a difference on the strength of my audio from back here?
Mm-hmm.
What's that
Yes,
mean,
it's
Bob?
very low. It doesn't come in loud like when you're setting up close to the laptop.
Okay, so when I'm back here, that's one thing. And then when I come up and actually join the meeting, not only is my audio going to sound much better, but my video is going to be better because I'm just closer to the camera and it's easier to do. Another thing that you might want to remember, and that is called fill the frame. You want to fill the frame with your subject. And when you're on a conference call, you are the subject. So here I am filling the frame of my subject. Mike, are you ready to go?
I am ready to go.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So if you see, I am going to join the audio here. And I'll make sure I mute my other mic.
You're muted, Mike.
You're muted on both.
Which is another problem
There we
that
go.
people forget to
Now,
unmute
wait a
their
minute, wait a minute,
microphone.
Mike.
Good
Wait a
job,
minute.
Mike. Thank you for showing that to us.
Mike, hold
So-
on. Mike, hold on. Go ahead, Bob. Talk about that. 'Cause it's important.
I did say that. I said that's another thing that happens, that people forget that they have control over their microphone and they mute themselves and then they start talking. And they have a lot of important things to say, like Mike, but you can't hear them because the microphone is muted.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I agree with you on that. And the other issue too is, which I'm also going to demonstrate on my other screen, but when you're on a PC and a laptop, it's easier to have your controls in front of you. But when you're using a phone or a tablet, they disappear. And a phone and a tablet app of Zoom is different from the PC. And so right now I'm going to change. I'm going to mute this mic. And I'm going to unmute this one, which means I need to mute my sound. That's the other issue, which I think we're going to be talking about headphones pretty soon. So right now you should be able to see me here. You don't want to be this way when you are doing your videos. This is what we call portrait. You don't want portrait. You want to be landscape. And landscape is turning it this way. When you do use your phone, you're not going to want to place it down here. You can't place it down and lean it. You know, you got to get yourself a nice stand. So right now, yes, I'm holding it for this demonstration, but I do have a stand here. And I will show you by switching back. Oh, Jim, can you pin my other camera?
Wait. Before you do that, Mike, I want you to take the phone and hold it up even higher so that the phone is at the height of your eyes.
Yes.
Now speak.
So right now, I'm at eye height, but I need to be tilted down just a whisker.
Okay. Now, when you're shooting video, the camera should be at the level of the eyes. You don't want to be looking up, or you don't want to be looking down at them, unless it's a hero shot. If you're a hero, then the camera can be a little bit lower, looking up at you. But
Right.
otherwise, we want the camera there. And you can use elastics and strap it onto a 2-liter bottle, or put it onto a pole. Or if you're Mike, you have to have all the accoutrements. Speak,
Yeah,
Mike.
so I got the little extra clip just in case things don't fit. I do have rubber bands. I do have clamps. Like if you look up here, I got clamps on my green screen. You know, those are good to have handy. But right now, Jim, can you pin my other video? No? Okay.
I can't, because we'd have to do it from the control room computer.
Gotcha. So here I am. I'm going to mute this mic here. All right. Love this stuff here. Okay. So right now, as you see me here, I am using a tripod. It's just a simple folding one. There's several little things to use. I happen to have the clamp that was set up for the portrait. And portrait's not the best, so I'm
Mike,
going to go
it's
back.
keying out.
to my
And
other
Mike,
one.
what we see now is half
It's
your
an
head because
So,
It's a magical disappearing tripod.
yeah.
all right, so I'm going to mute. Hold on a second. Let me.
All right,
Look,
wait a
Mike,
minute,
I'm
Mike.
using a camera too. Can you see it?
Yeah,
Look,
there you
I'm
go.
holding the camera up.
Jim is this. So those are things you don't want to do. But another thing I wanted to point out about the sound, if Mike or Jim, you want to go ahead and start your soliloquy and keep talking?
Okay. So a lot of this really is just looking at the picture before.
Hey, bring me a glass of water, will you? Hey, I'm over here. Yeah.
And then,
No, I'm down in the basement. Yeah, I'm on the meeting. Yeah. No,
okay.
don't worry. They can't see me.
All right,
What's so
Bob, what's
funny?
happening here?
Now, that's the kind of thing that people, when they forget that their microphone is not muted, they draw the video away from the speaker. And even if you're doing something unintentionally, it can cause the video to come to you. So please mute
Exactly.
your video and mute your microphone when you're not going to be speaking, or when you have to take a phone call or any other distraction in the basement.
And you know what? It takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of experience, a little bit of getting used to it, but it will happen pretty quickly that you will train yourself to unmute before you start talking and to mute when you go back. And if you're using Zoom, as some people are nowadays, it is a toggle, but I think it starts toggled on. If you mute yourself, you can then press the space bar and you will unmute while you have it pressed, and then you let go of it and you will then be muted again. Mike Trojan loves that because it's just like the push to talk intercoms at his other job. So that makes it really easy. You don't have to grab the mouse and look for buttons. You just touch the space bar, speak, and then you let go and you're muted so that any outside noise won't be distractive.
Yeah, it is the best advice. And like I said, trying to find the best microphone and headphones setup. I mean, you can do several ways of headphones. You could have a nice setup like Matt is wearing. I'm using just a standard mic that I use all the time when I'm out in the field, getting interviews or putting on people's podiums as they talk. Jim's got the great lavalier mic that we use in the studio for like the nice interviews and all the news people wear. But even headphones, you'll see a lot of people use the style that come with your cell phone, and I have like the standard ones here that just plug in. It plugs into your phone or your tablet, and it will plug into your PC as well, and it has the microphone built in. You want to do that for several reasons. One, you're going to stay more focused at a meeting with the headphone on, less distraction if all your kids are home, but also you're going to give better audio, especially if you're doing a presentation. I mean, everything, like my camera's rated, I'm looking right in the eye of that. And that's the other thing to train yourself is when you're giving that presentation, you're talking, stop looking at your screen and just look at the camera. And then everyone thinks you're looking right at them.
Exactly. Let's talk about cameras for a minute too, because webcams come in many different styles and varieties. And the HD web cameras are really good. I'm actually not using one right now. I have a different camera like Mike does. Matt, do you have an HD webcam?
I actually don't know. The only webcam I have is the one that comes built into my laptop. So
all right,
it's probably close to HD, but I don't know if it is.
Well, mine is HD 1080. So
okay, so 1080p.
Yep.
So that's just an HDMI signal, which is HD. So that is a good one to have. Mike, showing us something?
Yeah, I'm showing you the style that I get two of these because I bought one and I forgot about it because it kept getting delayed, and I bought another one, and they both showed up at the same time. So yes, I have. This is your standard HD webcam. Has the microphone built in. Really, really good audio, but it doesn't beat a real microphone.
Okay, now let's say you have that camera. It's a really nice camera, and it's got built-in audio. Again, always good to remember that microphone is no good if you are 5 or 6 feet away. You really want to be close to the camera. We actually bought 2 new ones while we started sequestering here at home. And one of them is super wide. The the video is all curved on the edges because
Yeah.
it's such a fisheye lens. It's like really wide, and the other one is not so much. So you do want to make sure that you take a look at that before you know go live.
And Jim, can
If
I?
you're doing, oh, go ahead,
I was
Mike.
gonna say, can I demonstrate that? Because here's my standard camera, and my other one is right there. You see how much wider I am, and so forth. Oh, you know what? If I take off the virtual background, which is another discussion, you will see there's my wide one, and then I change to the other one, and they're right next to each other.
Yeah. Oh, no kidding.
They're both on top of my PC monitor.
Mm-hmm.
So being right next to you, so that is something you have to change. It now this one that I'm on is also automatic focus. The other one is a manual focus, which is really good. You get a nice crisp, solid. But you go and you back up. The other one you're gonna be out of focus. This one here will change with
Right.
the autofocus.
I actually think that's really important because I have one that I bought and I thought it looked pretty cool. This one here. And
Oh, look at that!
it's HD, and I've got a manual zoom and I've got a manual focus on here, and I like it. It's nice.
Yeah,
Doesn't that look kind of like cool?
Jim. You
But
know what? That looks like the little cameras that Hollister cable used to have. They were
Yeah.
just a square box with a lens.
all right, Mike, don't tell them that, okay? Because they were
Oh,
a
it's a
little bigger than this.
No, it's a professional camera, but it
Yeah.
was the same style. Yeah.
But so this is not autofocus, it's only manual, and it drives me crazy because if I am zoomed out all the way, then I put the focus to infinity and I'm good to go.
Right.
But once I start zooming in at all, that focus is so touchy and it is so much work that for general use, I really like having automatic focus. I think that's really easy to work with.
Sure. Well, do you want to talk green screens? As you
Oh
go
my
on.
gosh, we certainly do have some options because when you switched yours off, that was really interesting. Now,
That's
wait
why
a
I
minute.
wanted to demonstrate.
go
Go
with-
ahead.
I'm going to start with mine.
Yep.
So on my video, I have a green screen on, and I'm going to shut it off right there. And this is my green screen, kind of wrinkly, kind of got some folds in here and stuff.
You mean
but
you're not actually in the studio?
I know, you know what? I know. I have fooled some people, to be honest with you. I have, but now you have seen behind the screen, so to speak. So,
Pay no attention to the man in front of the camera. or the curtain.
so with Zoom and with, you could do green screening on Meet, but you have to install a plugin to your Chrome browser. And once you do that, it's not the greatest, although I didn't have the greatest camera.
Can I demonstrate that? What you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, no, let me finish this one
Oh, yeah,
first.
go ahead, do that.
So now when you tell Zoom, you check the box, I have a green screen, then it is much more forgiving of kind of darker areas and stuff like that. If I say I don't have a green screen, it says my computer doesn't meet the requirements. I don't know why it says that. But when you do have a green screen, you get a really good key, nice and sharp. And Mike's going to show you a different kind of keying.
Yeah, so it's the same idea that when you choose your virtual background and you say that you do have a green screen, well, that's all that's going to get filled is your green screen. And you can see I am nice and, it's a nice solid line. All my lines as I move, it fit. But when you choose that you do not have it, well, then what happens is it's guessing where you are. And now, as I move, you're going to see shadows. And then it's not going to be there anymore. Yes, that's a great thing if you're really, really close and you're really up against the wall.
And you don't talk with your hands like Mike does.
And like I'm doing, the more move, well, that's why I'm showing down, Jim. I was better today.
You were.
Well, my hands hurt because I was sitting on them. I wouldn't move when I talk. But as you can see, I move. You're going to see fingers disappear. You're going to see things open up. The virtual is cool, but it's not for if you're going to do a presentation in front of your colleagues, you don't want to be using something like this unless it was secure, like really up against a wall, a plain wall. Doesn't have to be green. But if you have the green, All you got to do is click the green and you're in. Now, the reason I did that and I switched to this camera was to show you, because it's the wide, you see where the green is, and then you see where the green is not. And as you can see, you still got my fold lines because this one was brand new. This is a little bit more solid of a material than you have, Jim. Yours is like a cloth. This is like, I don't know, it's really stiff. It's not like a sheet. So when I switch my cameras around to my other, I think it's this one. Yeah. So now this one's closer. So I'm closer to the wall and my frame is filled with the green. I go ahead and put my background on in that same with the green screen. So here I am a little closer. Yeah, you see a little fuzziness because I have a little too much light coming in there. And my screen is really bright. So, and now my autofocus is adjusted for it.
Yep.
All right. So that's with the green. Without it checked, see, it's not too bad. But once you start moving, look, here it is in my glasses, eh?
Yeah.
And once you start throwing some kind of shadows. So as we talk, we're going to be talking lighting soon. Lighting will help you with this as well. You see how it all just appears? And
Right. So the last thing on green screen is if you can use it, it's really nice because I look okay here, right? You kind of get this, even if you know it's a green screen, it's a nice real look. If you could see where I am from my position, I can see my hot water tank. I can see my furnace. I can see storage shelves. There's my workshop. I'm in the basement. I'm in the basement of my house. And you know what? You can still look pretty good from there.
so I took off. What's nice is too, depending on what your topic is, you can change it. Our show's all about Hopkins. So I've got scenes from, West Main Street, from downtown, from the Common, the HCA. It's nice to be able to use, and your image wants to be high resolution too, Jim. You want to make sure you have at least a 1200 by 800 image at a minimum to use behind you. Other than that, it's going to be all blurry and distorted.
Right. Yeah. I always, when I buy it, basically, if you are buying a webcam, you definitely want to make sure it's HD. And I like the 1920 by 1080. That's a full resolution HD signal, 1920 by 1080. Now, Mike had mentioned lighting. Lighting is so important. Lighting can really make or break what you're doing. The general rule of thumb is, especially with a webcam, is you want to have even lighting. You don't want to have hot spots or really dark spots. So if you're not green screening, you do not want to be sitting in front of a window because the windows coming in really bright are going to make you very dark and shadowy. Oh,
yeah,
good, Matt.
Yeah, back
Like this. Yeah, you can see like it's not even that bright. That window is actually mostly closed, and the blinds are mostly down. But it just completely blinds everything out and makes the rest of the shot look much darker.
All right.
See now, talk Matt.
Yeah, and now I just move it away, and yeah, the lamp that's there, that lamp is not turned on. It's just kind of reflecting the light because it's near the window, so it kind of looks a little bright, but it's not too bad. It's not nearly as blinding. Alternatively, I have a lamp right in front of me that's also off. I could turn that on for light.
Okay, now that's important too because people often think, oh, I need to add more light. But when you add more light to a lamp that's right in front of you, it can make you have a hot spot or be washed out and not be the best looking. Bob, a moment ago, was flashing a lamp around. Bob, can you bring that lamp close to you and speak? Because we can't see you. You're muted.
So
Classic.
you can see,
See
it
that?
now. You can see it.
Even Bob Hamilton started talking without unmuting his microphone.
Well, I'm not used to it with Mike on the cameras. I never get a chance to say anything. But
Okay.
there's an idea that's
Now,
pretty bright. There, the light's right in my eyes. I can see the keyboard really well.
Yep. Now, Bob, raise the lamp just out of sight, but right just out of sight and then close to you. Because you have that is a pretty soft light. Okay. So now we're going to go to Mike. Mike has a light, which is his monitor screen. And what he's going to do for you now to demonstrate this, because earlier today, we were getting ready for the show. We were like, Mike, you are Casper the Ghost. You're all washed
Yeah,
out.
it was.
So he is going to speak so that you can see what he looks like. Then he's going to shut the monitor off. And just keep in mind, this is a computer monitor casting this light on Mike.
Yeah, this is your standard. What do we get, Jim? 28-inch monitors here?
Yes.
It's a standard Dell monitor, and here I am talking, and I am right now about 16, 17 inches away from the monitor, and you can see the monitor in my glasses, okay? So I'm going to shut it off, and bingo. I'm just showing you, I am in the dark. I'm looking at myself on my phone over here, and this is just a little light coming through the kitchen, which I can't control. My shades are closed. Now, I'm just going to open up one shade, and you can see how hot my face is now. We call this being hot, washed out, and I don't want that. So I actually have room darkening curtains just for that. And Jim, I'll send you the bill for those. So I get the room darkening curtains just to help out with it. But now here I go. I turn my monitor back on, and there I am.
Yep. Exactly. So
sometimes these cameras, and especially you buy something new that's HD, at least 1080p, that they're going to work great in low light. You really don't have to overdo it, but you got to watch out for the matte situation, which is probably the most common that you see. Once you have that light shining in behind you, you're going to be too dark, and there is nothing that's going to help that unless you remove that light, not add to it.
exactly. So now we can't see anything but that computer monitor light on your
Well,
face.
if I shut it off, I can't hear you. That's why
I know. You have to keep it on. I know. All right. Talked about composition. Talked about headroom. We've talked about using green screen. Thank you, Bob. Talked about using the green screen. We've talked about different kind of webcams and your positioning, where you are in relation to the webcam and the microphone. Talked about the benefits of external microphones versus the microphone on the webcam. Talked about adding light or making sure that the light in your shot is evenly balanced so that there are no hot spots. Talked about muting yourself when you're not speaking and unmuting yourself when you do want to speak. And you should be able to just press the space bar. And I will say this one thing, although it is not, I haven't seen any exact rules for when this happens or when it doesn't. But if I'm muted and I don't press the space bar, but I tap it, it'll unmute me. And if I tap it again, it'll mute me. And I can go back and forth like that. But it doesn't happen all the time. And I haven't yet figured out what the rhyme or reason for that is. And one other keyboard shortcut for Zoom, where we're talking about it, if you press the Alt key, it'll bring the meeting controls. Will either hide or show them. So if you're wondering, you know, if you want to keep an eye on the chat or you want to see that your microphone is working, you can see the audio bouncing up and down. The Alt key will bring that in and out for you. All right, we've got under 2 minutes
Just
now.
one note, Jim, on the chat. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Don't chat everyone. If there's 25 people on the meeting, you're going to get everybody. If you want to chat to somebody, just chat to one person.
There are a lot of funny stories on the internet about people who are chatting everyone. And that's even more for us because, as Mike learned on one of our first shows,
I think it was show number 1.
when you chat everyone, it goes out on TV.
Because the TV computer.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Thanks, Bob. All right. I actually have just about 30 seconds left, so we're going to wind this down. I hope you found some of that useful. I hope that you visit our website, hcam.tv/hangout, and I hope that you fill out the form and you join us as part of this community conversation. Thanks for being here. Thanks, guys.